Around 6 minutes, please, Ms Roddick.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm glad to have the opportunity to contribute to this debate this afternoon and proud that Scotland has maintained its fair trade nation status since achieving this in 2013. I know that this topic is incredibly important to many of my constituents, including those involved with Fairtrade Inverness, which is a very visible group, something that makes sense given that Inverness itself achieved Fairtrade city status in 2008 and has also maintained it ever since, not to be confused with the far more controversial city status that we achieved 8 years before. Last week, I also had the pleasure of seeing artwork on display at the Climate Justice School's arts exhibition in the Inverness Botanic Gardens, many of which recognise the role and importance of fair trade. Now, that display of understanding from primary schoolers across the Highlands of the intersectional inequalities which exist and how climate change impacts some people more than others was incredibly heartening. I do recall learning similar lessons when I was on Scripture Union residential as a child looking at Fair Trade Fortnight. And what we discussed then about the power that individuals have really stuck with me. And I'm glad to know that Highland schools are taking the time to share that knowledge about the part that these children throughout their lives can play in ensuring climate justice. We're currently in March, which is also B Corp month, and while Fairtrade and B Corp certifications are different, I did want to mention both today because I think they both tie into the spirit of this debate. There are businesses across the Highlands and Islands seeking to do the right thing, to be a positive influence on the world and have a sustainable existence that plays its part in tackling climate change, exerting a force for good when it comes to working practices and social justice. From Prickly Thistle in the Black Isle to North Uist Distillery in the Western Isles, I am proud that my region continues to be a strong leader in sustainable, socially just business, certified B Corp and fair trade. At a recent reception in here hosted by SEPA celebrating the recent winners of the Vibes Scottish Environment Business Awards, which included the Highland Way, which is a zero-waste ethical coffee shop in Nairn and a favourite surgery spot of mine, I heard business leaders from across Scotland discuss how government can help them to make the right decision. Most people who seek fair trade or B Corp certification do so because it is the right thing to do, and they don't need a better reason than that. Although the satisfaction of their staff and their customers, the benefits of having a good reputation, and their own happiness and confidence in their impact are all common benefits. But we do have to make sure that doing the right thing doesn't disadvantage those leaders. Our international development work is something to be proud of, but individuals and businesses domestically can also make a huge difference themselves. And I ask the Scottish Government to consider whether there's more that we can do to reward that best practice that does exist in communities across Scotland. Making use of the businesses across the Highlands and Islands who are already doing their bit has been a learning curve for me, but it was surprising to me how easy and inexpensive it is to make a lot of better consumer choices. I fell into the trap when I was struggling with money of believing that making better decisions is too expensive and shopping around required time that I didn't have. And I thought that you had to be rich in both money and time to change your habits. But that's not true. And I have saved money and found new products that I enjoy by seeking out fair trade and ethical products. From swapping to laundry eggs and Palestinian olive oil, which has enriched a few of my go-to dishes, to ensuring that the coffee and the grains that I buy have that fair trade mark, very little time has been required, and often I'm actually spending less than I would on the familiar brand name. I completely understand that when you are suffering cash flow issues, when every penny counts, it is easy to go for the cheapest and the nearest and not ask any questions. But these are all symptoms of the same problem, and the cost of not doing the right thing is greater. If it's okay for what we buy here in Scotland to be the product of exploitation, then exploitation is okay. If it's okay for the UK to engage in unfair trade deals, then it's okay for other countries to subject us to unfair treatment as well. Fair wages for fair work is a principle that we cannot afford to neglect for those in the global south that we trade with or for farmers across Scotland. While we might frequently discuss the global south when it comes to fair trade, the impact of accepting exploitation and low pay is felt by us all. Without equality and fairness for everyone, there is not equality or fairness. And for the people of Scotland to enjoy high-quality products, fair work and happy lives, we must be a good global citizen. Our continued efforts on fair trade here in Scotland echo our wider campaign to be a neighbourly, cooperative country which has a positive and recognised impact on the rest of the world. And it's yet another example of how, here in Scotland, the SNP government, while undeniably held back by not having access to the full powers of an independent country, always seeks to act as we would if we were a normal, independent nation. We support and work with other countries on shared goals and principles. We play our part in influencing others and showing leadership. And we push the boundaries as far as we can, proving that we are more than capable of taking on those full powers and doing even more with them as soon as the people of Scotland back us in that aim. Thank you.